Welcome to episode 7 of the travels of the Erie HOBO houseboat from Montreal to Ottawa to Kingston and up to Cornwall. This is pretty much the middle of the trip, or we're getting towards the latter half of the trip a little bit. And we started out this morning at Cornwall Island, part of the National Park System, and we're on the Big Rideau Lake. We'll be heading south today, hitting a number of locks. Pardon the voice here. I'm just getting over a bad head cold. We had a really good visit with Gord here on his carver, and he came by here with his dinghy, and a really good conversation. He's a very experienced sailor, and just talked about a lot of things. We learned quite a bit. So we're getting set to leave. Janet's just using the washroom. It's calm. The water is clear, if you can see. Let's just move around here. It's calm. The water is clear. We'll head on through the Narrows and on to Newboro and towards Chaffeys Lock, I think, for today. Time's about 20 to 10, and we're ready to go. Things are all buttoned up inside. It was a very good night here at Cornwall Island. Janet took a little longer than normal to come back from the washroom, but here's what she brought: berries for breakfast, raspberries, I believe. In the meantime, before we left, the folks in the carver came in to dock from their mooring ball. Then we took off, and there are many little rocky islands as we headed over westerly from Cornwall Island to get to the Narrows and proceed south. So you have to watch your depths and your chart plotter as you go through. And there are a number of cormorants you can see here. I just wanted to show that there is some wildlife out there. They like to hang out in dead trees. It's been pretty hot weather for the last week, so it's good to sometimes rinse out your clothes with a little dash of some Dawn dish soap. And the water is very pure and clean, and we turn our boat into a laundry clothesline for a little while. This is the Narrows Lock from Big Rideau over into Upper Rideau. It's just a lift of a few feet, and that's an isthmus that's been put across. It was dammed up here. This lock of just a few feet was necessitated by the fact that the lock farther down was going through hard granite and couldn't be dug deep enough. So this was the solution to get a partial rise here. So once we rise up here, we'll be at the highest point of the Rideau Canal system. Up ahead, that's a Le boat rental. We went through the Narrows Lock 35 for the third time. The previous two are in the previous episode, so I don't have any footage here. We came through into then the Upper Rideau Lake and headed down south towards Newboro Lock. The following shots are of going into the Narrows that leads to it, and a long path down to the Newboro Lock itself. For whatever reason, neither myself nor my wife got pictures at the lock, at Newboro Lock itself, other than just before we tied up at the blue line waiting for passage through, and then just after. There are remains of an old railway bridge you can see here before a new road bridge. These are two boats tied up at the lock traveling the opposite direction to us. The second one was particularly impressive, I'll say. This is Newboro Lake. We just left the Newboro Lock about 20 minutes ago, and we're heading to Chaffeys Lock. And you can see we've got a lot of little islands. It's kind of neat. Many of them have cottages on. Some are just rocks. Very, very interesting. There's a nice submerged rock there. Yeah. Okay. This is Goat Island. We've got a narrow passage here we're entering, and we'll snake around. Okay. Note the green. We're keeping inside the green. There's the green square. That's actually, we'll be turning. Yeah, there's an arrow below the green square. So that's, keep that to starboard. Immensely feel comfortable. Yeah. Start now and watch around the corner.
Okay, here we are turning a little more than that 90-degree
There's
turn.
another boat coming your way. So
Yeah. So watch your depth. Maybe zoom in one more time.
there's a kayak too.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
go slow. I'm gonna go slower, right?
Yeah, you could. And get close to the rock. You can get a lot closer. The kayaks look like they might cross.
I just don't want to go fast further.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
No, they're going to stay on that side.
Just
So,
on that side. Okay,
so
we will
you
go-
cut over to the left, hard. Cut over left.
Yep.
Yep. And here we're going to go through.
Wow, this is a narrow. Oh, this is wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
There you go. Now, you got good depth on your map. Yeah, and on your thing. Yep. You're going slowly, so that's good. So, yeah.
Wow, this is beautiful.
How are you guys? Yeah, canoe. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. I had to stop there and tell the canoeist there the name of the channel so he could look it up. He liked the boat. He made a comment. So anybody who shows interest, I try and tell them, hey, look at the channel. So if they like it, then they'll subscribe. Yeah, here we go. We come out and we open up into another lake. And we'll be bending around to the left, I think, after we get out of this bay.
Having cleared out of Newboro Lake through the Devil's Elbow, they call it Devil's Elbow Channel, past Goat Island there, we exited out into Clear Lake and crossed a short bit and got to another narrows. There's a ferry, the Scott Island Ferry, at the end of that. And after that, we will clear into Indian Lake. This is a shot of us moving from Clear Lake through the narrows to Indian Lake. There's the Scott Island car ferry. I don't know, I guess self-operated, or do you call somebody? I don't know. Now we're into Indian Lake itself. We stick to the channel. There are places you could explore here if we had time, places to anchor. The laundry that Janet did earlier today is mostly all dry. We have a few things out still, and I guess we'll leave it out. The folks at Chaffeys will excuse us for looking like a pair of hobos.
Okay, note the green just before the dock there, that's to our starboard. So we're entering in and doing right there a hard left. This is a channel leading to Chaffeys Lock. There you can see through there. I think there's a marina before the lock. And we go under that railway bridge. We'll see how it looks when we come out of this turn. Okay, so here's the marina.
We kept bending to the right. We went past Brown's Marina. I think they have fuel there, but we didn't need any and did not stop. And we continued on our way to Lock 37, and it was finally in sight, Lock 37, Chaffeys Lock.
This is Chaffeys Lock. As with many, there's a bridge here that would have to be swung if anybody is too high. In fact, you will be when the water's raised, so the bridge has to be swung every locking. And we got lots of folks here. And this is the boat they were waiting for. Once they get in and lock up, then we can come in and come down. And they were indicating to us to come down and sit at the end of this blue line here. They've actually, I think it looks like they blacked that out so that this is okay for it to stay the night. I've got to watch that though, that discontinuity right there, that we don't cause a problem. Over there, that's not a very good wall to tie up to. They've got some of the good wall there. There's some left there. Okay.
We watched the boats that were coming up in the lock that we've been waiting for. We watched them start to come up and then retreated to our boat and proceeded into the lock and got to the other side. Here's a view looking upstream the way that we came in, and then looking downstream where we're parked at the bottom of the lock, way on the left there. Parallel to the canal is a mill channel, and just beyond this bridge is an old mill. It's currently a private residence. The property is leased from Parks Canada. A few hundred yards away from the lock is the elegant Opinakon Hotel. This was originally a private home in the 1870s and later converted to a hotel. Currently there is the hotel aspect of it, a dining room, pub, also an ice cream shop. So we did make reservations. It turned out we didn't need to, but it can be very popular. If we were there on a weekend, it might be a different story.
You might. It is rocky. Yeah, it is rocky. Sit. Yeah. Oh, something's on me. Oh. One of those bugs. Wow. Whew. You could like push yourself into the current, like the fish. Like,
Okay.
Like this. Oh, something's on my back. Oh. Wow, that bug.
It's
One of those horseflies, yeah.
horseflies.
Well, Tuesday, July 9th dawned, another beautiful day for traveling, and we were all set to go. And when we met the owner of this craft, come back in from fishing, and he had a very unique personality. We met him and his wife also. They're very creative. We saw their home and really pleased to make their acquaintance. We learned a lot about the history of the area, the lock, and different things on the lake. So we appreciate the time with them. So we were a little delayed leaving, but it was a good time. So out onto Lake Opinakon. You can see our route in red. That's the buoyed channel, and you better watch all the rocks. Follow the channel carefully from Chaffeys in the top left to Davis Lock 38 in the bottom right. A really scenic ride. This is the Davis Lock. We shared the lock with some canoeists, which was not unusual. We did see a bit more of that kind of traffic here in these small lakes. We're soon to enter Sand Lake. Here's our route through Sand Lake from the Davis Lock down to the Jones Dam and locks there. Let's zoom in on the Davis Lock and then proceed through Sand Lake east. Then we'll wend our way southeast through many channels and rocks into Jones Falls. All from the previous map, the first part of our trip was more wide open water. We avoided the paddlers here and got around them carefully. But the next video is going to be when we get into tight quarters. In fact, there's a part there that's called the quarters as we enter Eel Bay. That was fun going through the quarters. Indeed, they were tight quarters, especially imagine some of the 50-foot trawlers that would go through here. When we got to Jones Falls shortly, we tied up at the wooden dock, floating dock at the top of the dam. We were right on the top of the dam, and we'll show you some pictures of the dam. There is a hydro generating project associated with this as well.
Okay, these are the penstocks, the tubes feeding the generation plant at Jones Falls. The lock is over there. Actually, a series of locks and a turning basin as well. This is the stone arch dam. I think it's 61 feet tall, and at the time it was in 1831, I believe it was the tallest dam in North America, third tallest in the world. So this thing is almost 200 years old. It's like 190 something years old. So
pause if you wish to read a little bit about the history and details of the Jones Falls Dam. Also, this plaque here detailing a little bit about Colonel By, the military engineer in charge of the entire project. On the west side of the dam, we climbed up the hill to the top to see the lockhouse and look down on Lock 39. There were some washrooms a farther distance away that we used as well. But then we had to get back, get on the water. We saw that the lock was exiting the other folks, and we were needing to get into position on the blue line to get in for our turn.
if you can look and just see the rate that the water is going down, it is really pretty fast. So we're going to do a double lock down here to the turning basin, and then there's a third lock. And we're together here, just 4 of us.
The folks beside us had either a bad transmission or a bad engine, but they're dual engines, so they were limping along on just one. Here are some pictures of the turning pool we took while we were waiting for the lock to open. It's a fairly big body of water. You could stay there if you wanted for the night, but usually people like to get through one way or the other. So we got into lock 40 and prepared to go down 40, 41, 42. This is water draining at 5 times speed. Over the 4 locks at Jones Falls will be lowered 58.4 feet total. That's all 4 locks.
Folks are fired up next door here, ready to go. We're the last of the 4 to go. They usually advise you on the pecking order to get out. It depends on maneuverability and other things. And usually, generally, we travel slower than the rest anyhow, so it works out just fine for us. They don't always make us last out, though. It depends.
We were last out of the Lock 42 at Jones Falls, and we headed south. Landscape was unremarkable at this point, but the Frontenac axis is a feature of the Canadian Shield that rises up and is highly visible. You're about to see that in Morton Bay, a long, slender bay. There are some anchorages at the very end. We did not go to the very end, but we thought we'd explore the opening, and it's very interesting. And here's our adventure.
This is the entrance to Morton's Bay. There is rock around here, exposed rock. We're in 16 feet of water right now. We're going to keep the red marker to the right and green to the left. But I look at this. We're going to have to... Yeah, let's see what's happening. Here's our Magellan chart plotter. This is our first course into Morton's Bay on the way in. And you can see it looks like we ran down that red marker. We actually came close to it, red right returning, heading up into the bay, into the dam in Morton's Bay and so on. But we ran in. And you come down here, you see this green marker. That's where it indicated, right next to the big rock. There's the little rock. The green marker was actually over there, right next to the rock. If we'd gone between it and the rock, we would have possibly grounded. It was pretty shallow. This is our track on the way out. Okay, so green markers indicated there. It was over here. So a little bit of confusion there. It's nice to have a chart plotter rather than just go blind, and to have charts so that you know if a marker is off location. I had to put the phone down. We had to consult the map. That green marker was displaced. It was too close to that rock. Supposedly, we were supposed to go between the green marker and the rock to the right, but it had been moved. So we just followed the contours of our GPS. Now we're into this hole, this bay. This is Morton's Bay. Currently 24 feet of water. The bay continues off to the left to go through narrow channel, and we'll see. We'll try and go down that. Evidently it is very nice as well, but we have someone we met on this trip was Alan, Elaine, and anyhow, friends, they in their sailboat, they texted us or emailed us that they had stayed here and thought it was very beautiful. Just felt we're in 22 feet of water.
We're in 22 feet of water, and we're by this rock face here in Morton's Bay.
Now 20 feet.
Now it's 20 feet, Captain Andrew says. 15.
We exited Morton Bay, disregarding the green buoy, and we turned south, and we're back on the main track, heading towards Murphy's Narrows. Beyond Murphy's Narrows was a cutoff to the town of Sealy. We did not visit there, but there are facilities there if you wish to go and visit the town, stock up. Sealy's Bay, that is. South of Sealy's Bay is Cranberry Lake. Before you get to Cranberry Lake, you come to Brass Point Bridge, which is an interesting, in the middle of nowhere, manual bridge, single lane traffic bridge. Looking back, we noticed the Brass Point campground. First of all, we noticed the docks. People kept their boats there. I don't think they take itinerant campers, though. It's mostly seasonal campers. We continued south on Cranberry Lake. We saw the occasional swan. This is one of the largest we'd seen. Cranberry Lake had opened up a little wider, and there were some rocky islands and so on. When we got to a certain point, we had to cut off towards Brewers Mills locks, and things got more interesting there. We are approaching Brewers Mills locks. Note the X position on the map. We are approaching a feature called Round Tail, which is a point of land on the right, I believe. We head into the Court of the Duke. And shortly we're going to see the Duke's profile also. 1819, the Duke of Wellington advocated that the Rideau Canal be built as part of Canada's defense system, and eventually Colonel By was assigned to it, and it was largely a military-driven venture because it was for protection and so on. And in honor, this area was called Court of the Duke, and here's why. We go a little farther south through the Court of the Duke, and we will reach the Upper Brewers Lock, and then a section of canal, followed by the Lower Brewers Lock. As you approach the Upper Brewers Double Lock, there's a bend such that you don't see it. You just see the building on the dam. You're going to have to make a tight right, and then you finally see the lock. The blue line above the lock where we stopped, we had a quick rest break and inspected the area before the lock opened and we went through. There are about 2 miles of canal between the Upper Brewers and Lower Brewers locks. Once at the Lower Brewers, we waited for the bridge to be swung by hand and went through the lock, and this is where we stayed for the night. Welcome to a new day, Wednesday, July 10th. This photo shows the lock in the background and how we flowed, and the water flows from the lock when it's open. On the other side of that little island is the mill stream and dam, and the structure there is an old mill, and some of that property has a studio, art studio in it. Now pay attention here. This is a round tower of a buttress to hold the hinges for the downside door. So the buttress, it has to hold a lot of force. It's got to be very strong, but it's a work of art, all done by hand, hand-dressed stone. Note the curvature even. We had a tour of this small but comfortable trawler. These folks were doing the Great Loop. They left just after us and caught up at the next lock, and later on we made it to Kingston. A bit before them, we were in the same marina downtown. A narrow canal with dirt banks leads its way south. It's been cut through, I guess, dirt. It's really just farmland and scrubland, it appears. Then it opens into a wider area. You'd think it was a lake, but they call it the River Styx. And it really, everything here was mostly just a floodplain with a winding river through it. And we go through this. You have to stay on the channel. There are deadheads. It's very shallow. See how narrow the channel is here? There's all sorts of obstructions out there, and things get hung up there. We started to hit heavier rain. We come to a narrow gap, and it leads to another shallow lake. This one got the honor of being called a lake. It's Colonel By Lake. And it, I think the dam had raised 26 feet. Anyhow, it was just a floodplain again that had got flooded. And this proceeds, and eventually we're going to come to Kingston Mills Lock. And after Kingston Mills, it becomes the Ottawa River. But first, we'll just see here through the rain. It was a messy day. These were the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. It's evident that the geese at Kingston Mills don't mind the rain, and we didn't really mind the rain. Lock operators don't really mind the rain. They work any weather except when there's a threat of lightning. So if there is audible thunder or visible lightning, the locks do not operate. So we had to wait for a little while and receive a few other boats that came in the inclement weather.
We're here at Kingston Mills Lock. It's raining, but it's not thundering and lightning. They filled the lock to get ready, just in case we could go through. We're going down to the lower part, and we're going to dock or moor. And this is a bridge, a swing bridge. We're right beside it. And there's the dock master lowering the dock. Doors opening at Lock 46, Kingston Mills. It's still raining. It's not thundering and lightning, so we're going to be heading out. There are 3 boats in the locks.
At some point, I noticed that Janet had, or must have, refreshed the posy of flowers she originally collected 2 weeks ago.
We're at the second lock at Kingston Mills, and we're just tied up, and we're getting ready to be let down as they pull open the gates for this big bathtub.
A railway bridge is directly over this particular lock.
Lock doors opening at lock number 2 at Kingston Mills. Well, here we are. We're holding fast here in the 3rd lock of Kingston Mills, and we're waiting for them to start pouring out the water.
We're going down in lock 48 now, a total of 45 feet for all 4 locks.
They're draining the water out of the 4th and last lock of the Kingston Mills. When you first get in here, it looks like an infinity pool. So glad that the gates hold tight. 4th doors of lock 4 of the Kingston Mills are opening.
We're now downbound on the Ottawa River, and if we can see through this rain that started up again, heavy rain, we're going to get to downtown Kingston. We pass under the Highway 401 bridge, and we'll come up to our choice of bridges here. Bad news, mariners. The bridge on the right, the Bastille Bridge, it failed about 3 months ago and is stuck in the down position. Yeah, we know all about that, and 13 feet of clearance is plenty for us. We'll just take the bridge on the left. The Kingston Confederation Basin Marina is just right after the bridge. It's a full-service marina operated by the city, and Wi-Fi, everything like that. It's close to downtown. It's very, very nice, and we'll save that for the next episode. We'll exclusively talk a little bit about Kingston and a couple things we saw there and include the marina. But this was our stop. We had a rest stop here for one additional day before proceeding up through the Thousand Islands and Brockville and so on, Iroquois Dam and Cornwall. More of that to come. Hopefully, maybe about 3 more episodes and we'll be done this series. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.